Hey everyone, welcome to Inside Indiana Overtime. Alex McCarthy, Seth from my apartment in Bloomington, where we just watched Indiana lose at Northwestern 24-14, which actually looks kind of like a respectable score. But I think it's safe to say this is one of the worst games that Indiana's played in at least the past 2 years. You can look at last year's game at Penn State, but in that game IU was without its starting quarterback and its starting running back. And today, Indiana pretty much is fully healthy and still can't really get the job done. And offensively, it was just, everything that has hurt Indiana all season hurt him again today. It was more of the same kind of.
Exactly. I mean, they even got Dan Feeney back for today's game. And I mean, there were a couple plays that they pointed out that Feeney made, but I mean, it didn't make enough of a difference for Indiana. I mean, again, as you said, the same things that plagued Indiana all year hurt them today. Red zone issues. And, I mean, the defense, this was almost an exact replica of the Nebraska game, in that the defense struggled so much early, got Indiana in a hole, that forced Indiana to throw the ball almost 60 times today.
Yeah, and this is the first game where I think the defense really did play poorly early on, because, I mean, even against Nebraska, they had, there was the pick six, and there was, a short field, but they just, I mean, Northwestern. You pointed out earlier that the pace of Northwestern's offense just totally kind of ran through Indiana's defense on those first two drives. They were immediately down 14-0, and were just clawing back the whole game. And as we said, and as folks on BTN said, Indiana kind of had to stick with Richard Lagow through all of his struggles today, just because he's going to be the one who can get you back in the game when you're down by that much. And he ended up, like you said, throwing the ball 59 times. He threw for over 300 yards, but 2 interceptions, and just was very inconsistent, from start to finish, really. I mean, there was one really good drive where they, one really good start to a drive where they got down inside the red zone with a few quick passes, and then it stalled out because that's what Indiana's done all year. But by and large, not a great game from Richard Lagow, and more than halfway through the season, he probably shouldn't be having this many issues.
Yeah, I mean, he threw 2 interceptions today. There were a couple near misses on interceptions. It easily could have been 3 or 4 interceptions for Lagow, and he was just missing his receivers all game. I mean, not consistently overthrowing or underthrowing, just all over the place. Really erratic performance.
Yeah, so I don't know, we'll see what happens there. But Indiana's defense played great in the second half, shut Northwestern out for the second half, sacked Clayton Thorson 3 times. So there was a little bit, of optimism there, I guess, for Indiana's defense. They played well. They still didn't really get. Did they get any takeaways today?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, they blocked a punt, but
if you count that.
Yeah, which doesn't count as a takeaway, but really they weren't able to make some of the plays. Richard Fant had a dropped interception in the end zone. Jonathan Crawford had one where it hit him in the face mask. So Indiana had its chances. There were a couple tipped passes that there was no one around to get, but they just weren't able to get a takeaway. And even pitching a shutout in the second half wasn't enough for Indiana's defense. Wasn't enough for Indiana today to get this win.
But the way that Indiana's offense was playing today, giving up 24 in the first half was just too much for Indiana to overcome.
Yeah, insurmountable. And for a team that led the Big Ten with 36 points per game last year, Indiana has yet to score more than 24 in Big Ten play so far through 4 games. So plenty of problems moving forward for Indiana. This was the tough stretch, these first 4 games of Big Ten play, but this was definitely a winnable game against a good Northwestern team, but not a great one, especially defensively. But Indiana comes out of this stretch 1-3 in Big Ten play. They have all of their, quote unquote easier games coming up. Maryland, Penn State, Rutgers, Purdue. All of those are very winnable games. But I mean, if Indiana's...
This performance today puts more pressure on those games to get the win. And I mean, one of those games comes right next week when Maryland comes in. So they're gonna have to figure out what was wrong, diagnose the problems, and fix it quickly.
Yeah, which, I mean, I think Indiana kind of knows its problems right now offensively. They just aren't making the plays, at the point of attack. They aren't making those so-called competitive plays on 3rd and 4th down in the red zone. I mean, they're just leaving a ton of points out on the field, and they rack up yardage, but it doesn't matter if you can't get the ball in the end zone, or if you can't score, or if you can't finish drives at all. So that's where Indiana is, more than halfway through the season. So we'll see what happens. 3:30 next Saturday, Maryland at home. We'll be there. I don't know. Any more thoughts?
I mean, in fairness, do give the defense the credit for how they played in the second half, because that did kind of give Indiana a little bit of a window to try and get back in the game. I mean, they did pitch a shutout in the second half, like you said, but I mean, just the 24 points was too much.
Yeah. Which is weird to say about about a Kevin Wilson Indiana team, but
it's kind of been the sort of story of the season.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, but for now, we're gonna sign off and head up to Hoosier Hysteria. 2 sports in one day. That's what we do here at Inside Indiana. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will talk to you soon.